What's up, guys? It's Techno Viking 23 coming to you today with a little bit of commentary about Destiny 2 and the Destiny franchise in general. Today I kind of want to talk about something that has been on my mind since the launch of Destiny 2, and one of the things I think Bungie could have done a little bit better to make Destiny itself a more enjoyable experience, and that is the fact that Destiny 2 should have just been an expansion to the first Destiny game. It did not need to be a new game for $60 with additional DLC. I think Bungie at this point is just trying to milk more money out of their franchise than they need to, and what they've really done with that is make Destiny 2 a very boring game. They pretty much started all over at the beginning throughout all of the story, and a lot of the things that happened in the first Destiny, it's like they almost didn't happen when you start to play Destiny 2 and interact with some of the characters. But overall, Destiny 2 is just a very big disappointment, and it feels like it's lacking in so many areas, especially the fun part of the game. The game is just very boring, it's very repetitive. And it's kind of funny because I actually did go back and I actually jumped on the original Destiny and started to play the other night just to kind of go back through and see how it was. And I have two characters that are still at $3.99. I was trying to see if I could get those last two gear pieces I needed to get them to level 400, just to say that I got them to level 400. And so I jumped on my Titan and started running around Venus, playing some missions and doing some patrols and some other things. And it's kind of funny because there were actually other people on the game. It was wasn't like the population has been completely gutted from Destiny. A lot of people were running around doing stuff, and it was kind of interesting. But the most important thing I noticed was that compared to Destiny 2, I actually was enjoying going back and playing Destiny and playing some of the missions and doing some of the patrols. And I even went into the Plaguelands and was doing some Rise of Iron stuff, having a really good time doing all of that. And it started me thinking about what really has gone wrong with Destiny 2 and why they couldn't have just kept going from where they had already reached with Destiny. And that's why I think Destiny 2, at the end of the day, should have just been a tacked-on expansion to the first Destiny. I will give Bungie this. I was a very big critic of Destiny through most of its run, but towards the end of the game's 3-year lifespan, it really became a pretty decent game. When I go back in and play now, there's a lot of different things to do. The game is actually a little bit fun. The loot seems to drop at a fairly good rate. You get varied loot. You get weapons with different perks, which is something that's really lacking from Destiny 2. Also, when you go in to do the strikes, you have the strike scoring system, you have strike-specific loot you can go after, you have treasure keys that drop, and you can get the big treasure chest at the end of the strike, in addition to the loot that drops from the strike. You've got Prison of the Elders, where they also have the scoring system in place, and the different bounties you can do off of that each week. You have all of the raids bumped up to the proper light level, so you can play any raid that you want, get any raid gear that you want. And all the exotics even can come with different perks, and you can change your perks on your exotics with glass needles. There's so much to do in the original Destiny now, at the end of its 3-year lifespan. It's a very, what I would call at this point now, it is a pretty complete game, and it is actually pretty fun to go through and play. There's a ton of stuff you can actually do. All the vendors sell the different weapons, they rotate. Again, the weapons have different perks. That's one of the biggest problems with Destiny 2 for me, is everything is static. Every chest piece has the same armor perks. Every gun has the exact same perks. You get an auto rifle from New Monarchy, and then you get that auto rifle again. It's going to be the exact same identical perks on that weapon, and it's so boring when you have however many people Activision claim play this game, and everybody's running around with the exact same piece of gear. Even the exotics are like that. It's like, oh, we have 3 million people playing our game. We only made 27 exotics, and they're all exactly the same, and pretty much no one can be unique or different. And it's one of the things I noticed going back and playing Destiny, was I was running around, switching through my different weapons, and I had this scout rifle that dropped that really, on the surface, didn't look like it was very good, but then when I started to level it up, it was a rapid-fire scout rifle, and it had explosive rounds, and it was really fun to turn on those explosive rounds and just go around shooting, blowing things up that way. But you just don't really get that in Destiny 2, because all of the guns have the same static rolls, and Luke Smith has already said they're going to keep the game that way. And they like the new weapon system and all this other, BS that Bungie developers typically spout. It's like they just ignore the fact that their game is incredibly boring, and no one's really having fun playing it. No one's really enjoying the loot that's dropping. Even though they do throw loot at you almost every 5 seconds in Destiny 2, none of it's really meaningful. None of it's really enjoyable. And then when you get drops in the original Destiny, you might get a sniper rifle with a really good perk roll on it, and it's really exciting and kind of fun to use that weapon. So that's really the main thing I don't understand. You look at the way Destiny 2 actually shipped as a full-on AAA title, a $60 game, and you compare it to the end of the run at Destiny. You look at Destiny 2, you don't have private matches for PvP. This is something that baffled me with Bungie when they shipped Destiny originally, because there were no private matches for almost 2.5 years with the game. And from the people who made Halo, which pretty much revolutionized first-person shooter player versus player, and had all kinds of different features and the private match options and everything where you could go in with your friends and just have a ton of fun, it's just baffling that this is Bungie and they're still struggling with this. Why would you ship Destiny 2, which is supposedly an improvement over Destiny, and have such a minimalist amount of features in the game? You have no private matches with your PvP, when that was something that people complained about for 2 years with the first Destiny. When you finally put it in, it was a very enjoyable feature. It led to a lot of fun. But then you make a new Destiny 2, why isn't that feature in the game? Why? It makes absolutely zero sense. It's like Bungie just went completely back to the drawing board. It's almost like they don't know what they're doing when they develop this game. The same thing with the strikes. You look at how boring the strikes are in Destiny 2. Why did the strike scoring system not carry over? Why did strike-specific loot not carry over? Why aren't these features in the game? In a brand new game that you paid $60 for, that is essentially a stripped-down version of the original Destiny with better graphics. It makes no sense to me. Bungie cannot be this stupid unless they're just actively trying to troll their community. I just don't understand it. Now, when you look at Destiny, where it finished at the end of its run, I've already mentioned all the different things that are in the game, all the fun activities you can do, how there's actually a pretty good amount of content now to play when you go back into Destiny. Imagine if they had just taken it and said, okay, here, we're going to do another Taken King type expansion. We're going to do a $30 expansion. We're going to put in a Cabal raid. We're going to do the Cabal attacking the tower, make it this big event, make it even a public event that people could participate in. And then we're going to, put this story in there where you have to go to the farm, or you have to go to the new tower and start rebuilding and defeat Gaul. It would have been a great add-on to what was already there. And again, as I play through Destiny 2, I definitely do not feel like it's a $60 game. There's just not enough content there. You play through the really kind of pathetic 6-hour campaign, and then you just grind the same public events over and over again. The raid is really well done, but that's always been one of Destiny's hallmarks. They've done a great job with all the raids. But I don't want to play the raid over and over and over and over again. And I just found it interesting that I went back into Destiny and, ran around patrol for 2 hours and did some strikes, and it was just so much more enjoyable. Even though I was getting, drops, I'm already level 400, it's not like I need them. I was finding different weapons. You find a different gun that's got a different perk roll on it. And it's a lot of fun to try those out and see if it's something that's more effective. PvP has never been something I've really super enjoyed in Destiny. But like I said, Destiny 2's PvP actually to me is a lot more enjoyable than Destiny's was. It seems more balanced. It's more based on gunplay than anything else, all the different spam with the abilities. There's still some major problems with it. The maps are too small. There's a lot of team shotting. It can be very unenjoyable, but I think overall, from just a mechanic standpoint, I think it's better than Destiny's PvP. But Destiny's PvP is a lot more fleshed out. You have more maps. You have private matches, obviously, which adds a ton of replay to the game and a lot more enjoyment, because you can get on with your friends and just play with your friends instead of having to worry about getting paired up with random potatoes who aren't going to play very well. But as I said, it just feels like this game should have been an expansion to Destiny. This is not a brand new game. This is not a game that you should be paying $60 for, and then an additional $40 for more DLC that they're just going to, put content that they probably already finished into the game. It's actually kind of funny. I was one thing I'll give Bungie credit for again with Destiny is the soundtrack. The soundtrack for this game is always really, really good. The music is great. Obviously, they had Marty O'Donnell doing some of the music for the first Destiny. And it was kind of funny because I was listening to the Rise of Iron soundtrack the other day, which has some really, really great songs on it. And I noticed that there's one song called The Shadow of the Walker, which Marty O'Donnell actually did that song for Bungie when he was working for Bungie. And if you think about when Marty O'Donnell was working for Bungie, because he got fired during the development phase of Destiny 2. He later sued and won his lawsuit. But for there to be a song for the Rise of Iron soundtrack created when the game had just come out, it makes you wonder if the Rise of Iron content was already finished at that point. Because why would they have the soundtrack for the game done already when the game was first being developed if Rise of Iron was supposedly new DLC, almost like 2.5, 3 years later into Destiny? It makes you kind of wonder. But I just look at it and I just see Bungie just making all these just baffling decisions. in Activision 2, and you wonder, what they're going to do. Are they going to, how long are they going to take to make improvements to Destiny 2? How long are they going to take to put private matches in the game? How long are they going to take to make the strikes more enjoyable to play? How long are they going to take to put features in like, strike-specific loot and other, and other things with gear? It's just baffling to me. You had a great platform already. You took 3 years to figure out what you wanted to do with Destiny, and it seemed like by the end of Destiny you'd figured it out. And now you're going back to the drawing board and starting over again? And you're going to take, what, another 2 to 3 years to make Destiny 2 feel like a complete game? I just think that's ridiculous. And if you listen to their interviews they've been giving since Destiny 2 came out, because the community has been really upset with this game. They've actually been very vocal. I actually am kind of surprised to see that, because normally the Destiny community is just a bunch of fanboys who don't really care how bad they get screwed over, but this time it seems like a lot of them are not just sitting back and accepting it, and they're actually kind of upset about it. But it just makes you wonder what Bungie's thinking here, because when they do their interviews, they're like, well, we're starting out with this, and we have a lot of things we need to figure out. Why? You had 3 years. It's not like Destiny 2 is this major, humongous, like, different game than Destiny. It's the same game. If anything, you've dumbed it down. You've made it a much simpler game. The subclasses are a joke compared to how they used to be. Everything is very easy to use. It's almost like the game has been geared toward casual players only. It's very easy. The game throws loot at you like nothing else now. You don't even have to work hard to get weapons or exotics or anything. I've got about 10 hours of game time in Destiny 2, and I've got 18 exotics. That's insane. I remember in the first Destiny, I think it took me almost 30 to 40 hours before I even got my first exotic drop that I didn't buy from Xur. But they just kind of give you everything. They throw it at you. The game is incredibly easy now. And now they start on this conversation of, oh, we're still figuring out what we're doing with the game. And then the other thing that's driving me insane is you go to these YouTubers who promote all this stuff for Activision and for Bungie. And all they're talking about is how, oh, we need to give Bungie time to figure out what they want to do with this. It's a brand new game. We have to really let them, find their stride with it, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, they don't realize, they may not be getting paid by Bungie, but they all sound like paid shows for Bungie. It drives me nuts. And they'll constantly remind you, like, oh, I don't get paid by Bungie to say this. This is what I really feel about the game. I just love it so much, and 100%, there's nothing wrong with it. You never hear any criticism from any of them. There's a small handful, but most of them will not criticize Bungie in any way, shape, or form. And when you think about it, they almost have to say nice things about Bungie, or else they won't get brought out to Seattle to get their special game capture events and all that other things, so they get the exclusives for their channel. It's kind of funny. Angry Joe actually made a comment about that in his review of Destiny 2. I guess he wanted to make it clear because it was funny. He reviewed Destiny, and he was actually one of the first people to get to see Destiny in action. Bungie invited him out along with Datto and a few other people to see Destiny, the original Destiny, before it even came out. And then he did a review on it and pretty much ripped the game to shreds, and it deserved pretty much all the criticism that he gave it. And then he never was invited back to Bungie. You never saw Angry Joe getting invited to any game capture events. Even with the expansions, he wasn't really shown any content early to kind of talk about it. And I always thought it was because he was super critical of the game, and Bungie and Activision especially do not like it when people are critical of their products. And he actually mentioned in his Destiny 2 review, he said the problem was when he did his review at the end of it, there's a little skit where Cobra Commander, the corporate commander, which is one of the funnier things about his videos, was pretending to be like a Bungie guy, like talking about how much money he was going to make and how they screwed over all the gamers. And then Angry Joe is running in the scene and he beats the crap out of Corporate Commander. Well, Bungie apparently, I guess he inquired, and they told him when they saw the video they were afraid he was gonna do that to their developers, like that. They were viewing that as a threat to them, like a physical threat to them, which that just made me laugh. I thought that was so ridiculous, and he said that was essentially why he hadn't been invited back to Bungie to check out any of the new gameplay stuff, and he didn't think he would ever be going back there in the future. So, just kind of a funny insight on the way Bungie thinks about this thing. Anytime, there's people that want to criticize their game, they just squash it immediately, or they don't allow any of their YouTubers to really be critical of the game without, taking away their special access to it. So I just find it hilarious how all the YouTubers are still singing the song. They're still talking about how great this game is, and they're giving the excuse of, oh, it's a new game, it's a brand new game, and we got to give them time to figure it out, and blah blah blah. And I'm just like, no, it's not a brand new game. This is essentially Destiny with a couple of add-ons. And again, I come back to the fact of why couldn't they have just made this an expansion to the current existing Destiny? They made a lot of interesting quality of life changes that were very nice in Destiny 2. The map, not having to go back to orbit to go to different places, being able to quick travel on the actual map, things like that. These are things that they could have just put in as improvements to the game and then added in this big expansion for the Cabal. I don't understand why this had to be a new $60 to $100 game with additional downloadable content. It just really doesn't make any sense. You already had a great platform, and you could have easily patched in, especially now that the game is only on next-gen consoles. You could have very easily patched this in. You could have patched in graphic improvements, and don't tell me that they can't do that, because I'll use a free-to-play game as an example. Warframe. It's a game I play quite a bit. And Digital Extremes, I think it was last year or the year before, they actually put in a new patch in the game, which brought a ton of graphic improvements. Now, maybe that's something they can only do on PC, but I'm pretty sure they put it through for the console as well. Improved the graphics of the game, improved the effects of the game, made the game look better, made the game run smoother. These are all things that developers can do. And when I see developers who are working on free-to-play games with a half or a third of the budget that Bungie and Activision have, it just baffles me how they continue to crap all over their community with their nonsense, and they keep making excuses for it, and they get away with it. That's really the worst part about it, is people let them get away with it. And I'm sure, people bought Destiny 2 in droves, even though it's really not a great game so far. People are continuing to play it. They'll buy all the DLC, they'll buy the collector's edition. It's just the culture we live in right now, unfortunately, with video games, is that for some reason these major corporations just continue to get away with screwing over their communities and screwing over their gamers. The same thing goes on with Call of Duty every single year. You see all the videos when people talk about how Call of Duty is so bad, and it's just, they just basically redid the same game over and over again without adding anything new, but yet people just continue to buy it, and they continue to make millions of dollars off of it. And it baffles me why they get away with this with Destiny 2. This is not a brand new video game. It should not be treated as a brand new video game. They should be getting criticized on this as if they've already put in 3 years of development time. And they shouldn't be getting a free pass at all. When they did the Halo games, when you go from Halo 1 to Halo 2, they didn't just throw out all the core elements of Halo and just said, oh, we're doing a brand new, starting over again with Halo 2. No, it was basically we took the first game, and we built upon the first game, and we put improvements in the game. Obviously, it's a different campaign and a different story, so that's going to be they're going to consider that new. But we added in new things. There's dual wielding. We've made the PvP more exciting and a little bit better. And we've improved from the first game to the second game. With Destiny 2, you don't get that feeling. It's almost like they took 10 steps back. Like, what did you guys do with that 3 years of development time on the first Destiny? Because it pretty much seems like you didn't learn much at all. Because we started out Destiny 2 with the exact same problems that vanilla Destiny had. And I wonder, like I said earlier when I was talking about the private matches and things, this is going to take them 2.5 to 3 years to put all that stuff in the game. And you just wonder, will this community continue to put up with it? I can tell you for sure when the game launches on PC, I think Bungie's going to see a whole different type of firestorm from its community, because knowing the pulse of the PC gaming community, they're not going to put up with this kind of garbage. They're not going to pay, buy a $60 game and then wonder why there's only $20 worth of content in it. So I don't know if Bungie's ready for the firestorm they're going to get from the PC community when they see just how shallow Destiny 2 is and what a letdown it is compared to the first Destiny game. So again, at the end of the day, I think what they really should have done, they should have kept where they were at the end of Destiny's life cycle, because I think Destiny was in a really good place. And they could have just added on this new expansion, brought in these new exotics, brought in these new... Imagine if you had Destiny right now. You have all the planets you have on there, you've got the Dreadnought, you've got the Rise of Iron, the Cosmodrome, you've got some newer areas there, and then they bring in this expansion and they open up all these other brand new planets, and they, instead of just like hitting the reset button, where it seems like lore-wise no one knows who you are, no one knows what you're doing, like it kind of baffles me. You go into the farm, you talk to Tyra Karn, who is such a big part of Rise of Iron, and everybody knows you're Saladin's wolf, and you're this this famous guardian who helped defeat Siva, and you go talk to Tyra Karn in the farm, and it's like she doesn't even know who you are. You're just like some stranger. They've pretty much just thrown all of that out. Even Lord Saladin, when you go to talk to him at Iron Banner in Destiny 2, it's like you're just some run-of-the-mill common guardian. He doesn't remember who you are after all the stuff you did together. And it's just kind of baffling to me. It shocks me utterly. And again, people just making so many excuses. This is a new game. It's a new game. No, it is not a new game. They've had 3 years to get this right. and they still fail utterly at it. And it's just it's really kind of aggravating to watch, and it's aggravating to watch this community get crapped on again. But even though it seems like they don't mind, they put up with it no matter what. So, anyways, guys, I think I've rambled on long enough for this topic. I think you guys pretty much understand how I feel, and I think once again Bungie is just trying to screw people over and milk them out of their money again. And unfortunately, you're never going to hear any of this type of commentary come from any of their major YouTubers, because they just want to buy into it. They don't want to talk bad about their overmasters, their overlords at Bungie, who give them their free content to show off for their exclusives. But overall, I think Destiny 2 is a massive letdown. It's a massive disappointment. It's a massive step backwards from the original Destiny, and I just can't understand why that is. It just is amazing how Bungie hasn't learned anything in 3 years of developing Destiny. How they just kind of hit the reset button and start all over again, figuring, hey, we can milk people out of another $200-300. Why not? Let's do it. So, anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this video. Let me know what you think about the topic. If you guys are still wasting your time with Destiny 2, if you even bothered to pick it up, and what you think of it so far. And if you're still actually going back and playing Destiny, let me know what you think. Because quite honestly, I'm actually went in and had a little bit of fun playing Destiny again, the old Destiny. But anyways, guys, hope you're having a great day. I hope everybody had a great weekend. Thanks as always for watching, and I will see you again next time.